Well, Shad Olson is with us right now. We want to talk, Shad, about what we already know the Democrats believe. They believe that abortion on demand should be the law of the land. They believe in a homosexual, lesbian agenda, and they've removed God from their platform.
Yes.
So those are the things we know. They're out in the open. But the things that are more interesting to you and me is when we listen and they're saying things, as Ronald Reagan would say, that just aren't so.
That's absolutely true. And Gordon, in the first couple of nights of the Democratic National Convention, we saw something happen that's been widely reported, even in mainstream media sources. And this is what is important, because USA Today with factcheck.org published an article after the first night of the convention. And when I pulled it up on my smartphone, it said a Democratic fact check of the claims that were made at the convention. It ran to 28 pages on my smartphone.
For our viewers, just to make certain that they don't miss that, you need to hear this. 28 pages of misinformation. Now, some people would define that differently. They would call it lies.
They were lying. They absolutely, and I stood there, and I don't know about you, but I keep a stack of bricks just next to my Lazy Boy recliner, so that when something, maybe I feel the urge to toss it at the television, and then I have to restrain myself.
You know, we have a great buy.
I ran out of bricks.
We have a great buy on used TVs at the community thrift store. You'll have to stop over and stock up.
I may be in the market for that. 28 pages, literally, of things that they claimed were not true. Let's just run down a few of them. They claimed, and I counted this because I wanted to have it for my own show the next day, 67 times during the convention, various speakers in the first night of the DNC said that Mitt Romney wants to raise taxes on the middle class. Now, this was a mantra they repeated over and over. Now, they were actually referring to a study that was done by a dubious economic analyzing source that had claimed that it's impossible for Mitt Romney to cut taxes on the wealthiest Americans and remain revenue neutral. Now, both you and I, we know that that's absolutely patently false. Ronald Reagan proved that if you cut taxes, you actually create jobs, and you create wealth.
Didn't JFK do the same?
And they're right. It's not revenue neutral. It actually boosts revenue.
That's right.
And so that's one of the lies. They also claimed that the income disparity between the sexes in America, that women make 77% of what men do. Well, that's not true either. They checked, and we're just hitting the highlights, they checked that, and it's actually in a job-to-job comparison where men and women are working the same job, same hours, women make 91% of what men do.
You know, speaking when you
but
talk
77% sounds a lot better if you're trying to drum up the cause.
When you talk about jobs, I heard something very enlightening the other day. This impersonator who does Barack Obama said, "I have made up my mind to run for re-election with good reason. I'd be crazy to give up this job in this kind of economy."
Well, unemployment was another area where they were just not even close to the truth. They claimed that Barack Obama had created 4.5 million jobs during his presidency.
There's really a net deficit of 300,000.
Net deficit almost 400,000.
Is it?
And they've lost 4.5 million, and they've only gained a little over 4 million back.
You know, Shad, you and I watch Chris Wallace, and he's a pretty intense guy. When he's interviewing someone, he kind of holds their feet to the fire.
Yes.
But Barack Obama's man, David Axelrod, absolutely steamrolled Chris Wallace with deception. Now, Chris Wallace knew that's what he was doing, but he couldn't seem to stop him.
The only thing, and Gordon, you and I have talked about this off air, the only thing that I think Chris Wallace could have done in that situation is meet fire with fire and say, just very simply, you are lying.
Yes, that's
and
not
why
the truth.
couldn't you do that? And I think his father would have done that. You know, God love Chris Wallace. I think he's a fair reporter and a very smart guy. But Mike Wallace, I don't think would have let David Axelrod get away with it.
I was a little puzzled why he let him do that, because Chris Wallace has the ability to stop him in his tracks. Why didn't he, Shad?
I'm not sure what the reason could be behind that. There are times when news personalities are intimidated by people who are used to being aggressive and who are used to being caustic.
Then you
and
must
hateful
not be a news personality.
Maybe that's true. Or maybe
that's what makes you so good, Shad. And by the way, if you're not listening to the Shad Olson Show every day, you really should be, because it's information you don't get from the Rushes of this world, from the Hannitys of this world, who many of us say have kind of moved to the mushy middle.
Well, we don't kiss up to the RNC, and we're not in the business of, we like to refer to it as equal opportunity offense. on the Shad Olson Show.
Well,
we,
with
we,
that-
we offend both parties with equal aplomb.
Yes. And with that, we're going to conclude for now, but stay tuned. We'll talk some more with Shad later.